And we're back now with our roundtable. Jim Vandehi, the executive editor of Politico. Nancy Cordes, of course, is our congressional correspondent. Both of you have been all over this lame duck Congress story. I think the headline, if I were going to write one right here, is that it appears they are going to extend these Bush tax rates, as Senator Kyl likes to call them. He doesn't want to call them tax cuts. But it sounds to me like the START treaty is not going to get ratified during this session. I
think you're right. I think everything we're hearing over the weekend is there could be a deal as soon as Wednesday that would extend these Bush tax cuts for at least 1 to 3 years. This is astonishing. If you think about it, you have President Obama with a Democratic majority in the House and Senate about to extend Bush tax cuts for millionaires and billionaires for a duration that could last the totality of the first term of the Obama presidency. Who would have thought? If you think back to that campaign, this was the issue he talked most about and talked most passionately about, and now he has to compromise. So it is a big compromise.
Do you think, Jim, that this might get him an opponent in the Democratic primary for president next time around?
I don't know if he'll get an opponent, but one thing that people should keep in mind, in the next 6 months, if things play out the way we think that they're going to play out, he's going to have to look liberals in the eyes and say, not only did I extend tax cuts for the rich, I'm also going to probably leave the end of my first term with more troops in Afghanistan than I inherited. So on two of the biggest issues that liberals care most about, he's taking a position that looks a lot like George W. Bush.
Nancy, I take it there's no other way to get these unemployment benefits, and I think Senator Kyl made a little news this morning because he suggested that unemployment benefits are going to be a part of this package. What exactly does he mean there?
Well, this is the tit for tat that the White House is working out with Republicans behind the scenes right now. Okay, we'll give you what you want on tax cuts, which is a huge blow to Senate Democrats. You heard a little bit of that frustration from Senator Durbin. They're very angry at the White House, frankly, for what they see as caving so quickly. There is a small faction of liberal Democrats who want to essentially play a game of chicken here. Let the Bush tax cuts expire, go into January, keep fighting. They know they can reinstate them retroactively, but most Senate Democrats realize their position is not going to get any better in January when Republicans take over the House, when Republicans gain more seats in the Senate. So they're basically looking at this and saying, this is the best we can get.
But it does appear that they are going to get this, I mean, as far as the unemployment benefits, and that's very important to millions of Americans with Christmas coming on.
It is, and there's other priorities, other tax credits that the Obama administration wants, and they'll say, listen, as part of this compromise, we got a lot of things that Democrats care about. But on the big issue, they're basically taking the Republican position, and that's why Democrats on Capitol Hill are privately livid, because they feel that the White House basically telegraphed a compromise several weeks ago when David Axelrod had made some comments, and that they've done so in private meetings ever since. So this is sort of inevitable, and you had that feeling with the senators today. They both felt like this is inevitable.
But I would not be so quick to rule out the START treaty getting done during the lame duck session. This is a huge priority for the White House. It's very unlikely that they would negotiate this kind of deal without some kind of promise on START. And when the Senate wants to do something, despite what Senator Kyl said, it can be done very quickly.
They figure out how to do it, don't they? And really, when you come down to this, this is this has wide bipartisan support. I mean, you can get a list this long of Republicans, former secretaries of state, former national security advisors, who say we really need to do this. And so it's not like it's without Republican support, but it's in the Senate where it's hung up.
It's got all the hallmarks of a negotiating tactic. Basically, they are not going to compromise on START until they know that they've got a lock-solid agreement to extend the Bush tax cuts for 3, but most likely for 2 years.
You know, one of the interesting things, Jim, is that when people started putting out the story that the Democrats were going to get a kind of a wink and a nod from Senator Kyl, who, despite his modesty, is the one who's going to decide whether this thing gets out there for a vote. When it appeared, somebody put out the story that he might be willing to go along with the START treaty if they could get the tax cut business done. The Heritage Foundation, a very conservative group, the president basically attacked Senator Kyl and said that this can't be part of some kind of deal. This has to stand alone. So Republicans in the Senate are feeling some pressure from the right on START.
Some pressure, but welcome to the new Washington, where Republicans have tremendous power, even before, by the way, they take power. Right now, we still have operating Democratic majorities in the House and Senate. Almost all of these negotiations are being done on Republican terms. The START treaty, which is, I think, still likely to get pushed into next year, but possibly could get done this year. The tax cut debate. You had President Obama come out this week and talk about a 2-year pay freeze for federal workers. That was a top Republican idea. House Republicans have been talking about it for some time, and Obama wanted to show a nod towards, hey, I'm thinking about deficits just like Republicans are. Again, politics has changed radically because of what happened in November.
And frankly, Democrats backed themselves into a corner on this issue by not being able to reach agreement within their party sooner about what they were for. You've got some Democrats who think they should be extended for everyone, the tax cuts. You've got some Democrats who feel that there should be a $250,000 ceiling. So they waited until this lame duck Congress, right before the Bush tax cuts were set to expire, to bring this to the table, and they've got no leverage.
We've got about 30 seconds. Don't ask, don't tell. Does it fall by the wayside, Jim?
I think so, at least in the short term.
Senate Democrats say it won't, but you look at the calendar and there's very little time.